And we are live. Good evening, Barbados, and welcome to our live coverage of the 2025 St. James North by-election, a critical contest that could not only just reshape representation for St. James North, that northern constituency, but also the dynamics of the electoral landscape within Barbados. The polls have closed, and counting obviously is on the way over the next few hours. And we will bring you the results as they unfold. We have, alongside some real-time export analysis from the ground and some key insights as to what this vote means for the Barbados Labour Party, the Democratic Labour Party, the independent candidates, and in general, the wider electorate of Barbados. Tonight's by-election was fiercely contested, with the BLP looking to retain that seat that has been long held, and the DLP pushing hard to make inroads amid calls for stronger opposition. Independent voices and civic groups have also made their presence felt. But now it's up to the ballots to do the talking at this point. Joining us tonight is Dr. George Belle, a political scientist who's well known throughout Barbados and the entire Caribbean, who has long offered his insights on these matters. One-time dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. I hope I did not butcher those credentials, Dr. Belle. We have Senator Dr. Shantal Munto-Knight, representing the Barbados Labour Party. And also we have Amoy Gilding-Bourne, spokesperson for agriculture for the Democratic Labour Party, and the candidate for Christchurch East. I hope I have that correct.
Yes, you do, sir.
Fantastic. My memory has not failed me, even as I am approaching that half-century mark. Yes. So as we look into the night's results, and we are waiting for results, I want to start first with the two representatives of the party. I know Dr. Belle will be chomping at the bit to tell us what his insights and expectations are as it relates to what the outcome of the elections would be. But we would start with the party representatives to give us an idea as to how they felt the day's voter turnout was, as well as how they felt the ground game, because that's a critical component of any election. How you were able to mobilize that vote and get it to the polls. Again, so we'll start with Amoy Gilding-Bourne. You tell us from the Democratic Labour Party's perspective how that ground game and how you felt the voter turnout, and any other hiccups that you may have felt was encountered on the day.
Well, good night, everyone. Well, I'm newly minted, so this is my first time in politics. I thought it was well done. It was not easy canvassing and going out and going to each and every house, making sure you engage with the residents, and to get your message out there, let people see you. It's diligence 101. Yes, we may have encountered, one or two hiccups relative to, getting everyone mobilized in a coordinated fashion, but through and through, all in all, I think it was encouraging. Let's just say the response from the residents was very encouraging, and it was fun too, actually, because Miss Dujon is our personal pocket rocket. I heard Mr. Pisa call her that, and I'm gonna take that term. She really is a force to be reckoned with in terms of her energy. So yeah, it was a task keeping up with her, to say the least. But yeah, that's I thought it was good. I thought it was good. We
Okay.
hear we hear some of the comments from the other side about numbers and stuff like that, but that's all in politics. You have to get out there and just have to do what you have to do. Leave it in God's hands, and that's all I can say about that. In terms of the meetings, we made sure we had spot meetings in specific areas. We made sure that we got out the information so that persons were able to attend the meetings. They knew they had the information at hand. So yeah, it was nice looking at the other side too in comparison to see what was happening over there. But
Okay. Senator Munto-Knight, same question to you. How do you think the ground game went today?
I think the ground game we executed well. I mean, not perfect, but well. We had a very deliberate campaign strategy, which again was for us. I think you used the word Colville grounded, right? So the Barbados Labour Party's overall strategy has always been that elections are won on the ground, won with the people consistently. And over the weeks of this campaign, we build up to that, right? So we spent an immense amount of time and energy on the ground in every nook and cranny across St. James North. We mobilized our entire parliamentary party. So you would see that for us, this was a team affair, a team process going into it. And that helped us, as it always does, to help us to be able to execute on the day. And again, very much about building alliances with the community, understanding the needs of the community, also understanding as well, again, just given where we are as a party, the planning and the strategy that we have been able to put together. That we were able to ensure that we mobilized people to be able to come out as much as we wanted to. I would only say, just in terms of overall, I think that we were, if I say heartened, I don't even know if that can explain it so much, but certainly the level of energy that we've had throughout this campaign and at meetings, I would say to you, for me, and this is perhaps more personal for me, I it was unexpected. Yeah, the not only the size of the meetings, but just the overwhelming, I use that word again, energy that we had and was maintained throughout the campaign. Suggests to us as a party that the Barbados Labour Party is still the number one choice for Barbadians. And we are expecting to see that evidence in the results.
Okay. Dr. Belle, over to you. Basically, I noticed um, from the talking points of this campaign, a lot of focus. Yes, there was some focus on the internal issues within the St. James North constituency, but it seemed more or less almost like a national referendum. This was like a lot of focus on national issues, from education to crime to various issues. Do you think this election again? And there are some who are of the view that the conclusion is foregone. But do you think this election is more of a referendum on the government per se, as opposed to real test of what's happening on the ground internally in St. James North?
Well, I think that relates to the tone of the two campaigns, and I think that one side was responding to the tone of the other side. And the Democratic Labour Party had to be very careful that they did not pitch themselves at a level of they're going to win a victory and then end up losing, because that is what happened in 22. And then it had consequences even for the leadership of the party at that time. So I think that they wanted to be a bit cautious there. And they did two things. They knew that they had to speak to the parochial because it was a by-election. But they felt that it was an opportunity to critique the government at a national level, so that it would be possible that if the critique got feet, then or legs, then they could argue, if they were swing against the government, that there was a victory there anyhow because of any negative swing that went against the government. So that they would, even if the candidate didn't win, the party could then use that as a base for saying that they had done well and that they would do better in an election where they were not fighting the Barbados Labour Party in a stronghold of the Barbados Labour Party. I think because the Democratic Labour Party pitched at that level, which would result in what you are saying is the referendum style. The Barbados Labour Party had to defend itself. It had to defend its policies, and it had to defend its policies on a national scale, and it did so. So that the two sides then eventually were, besides addressing parochial issues, which they struggled to emphasize, they had to carry out campaigns against each other in a national debate on policy. And that did turn the campaign into one that seemed to be pitching at a referendum type position in relation to the performance of the Barbados Labour Party. And therefore, at that level, the Democratic Labour Party, should it create a significant swing against the Barbados Labour Party, then they would be able to argue that they scored a victory, even if the candidate did not win.
Okay. I'm going to ask Dr. Munto-Knight, this is starting with you first, to respond to what Dr. Belle said, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Gilding-Bourne to do the same.
I don't disagree necessarily with what Dr. Belle indicated. The notion of it being a referendum on the Barbados Labour Party is, although not rooted by us, it's not something that we're going to run away from, right? This government has always run in a matter of not on perfection. We've never run on a thing of perfection. What we have said is that we're going to run on a record of results. And being able to produce results, that we are a government who faces the problems, facing the challenges, and fixing them. And we have been honest and upfront. Our Prime Minister has indicated from the platform, listen, everything is not perfect. But the fact is that even as things are not perfect, our record indicates that we are producing results, that we are working to fix the issues nationally. I think that Barbadians are mature enough to recognize that there's also a global environment as well, and that a lot of, and perhaps many of the issues that we face are also tied into what is happening globally. But that there are indeed challenges, whether people talk about the issues of crime and violence. And that is also broad range and societal and needs a multiplicity of players to come on board. But the government is, willing to face the expectations of the population and to take on board what we have to do, what is our responsibility as a government as well. And I think that we have done so throughout this campaign to lay to the public, again, the record of the Barbados Labour Party in respect of, again, the issues that have been highlighted. I want to say as well, and Colville, is something that you mentioned. As you said, you started by saying that some people have taken it as a foregone conclusion, and that was not the case for the Barbados Labour Party at all. We would not insult the residents of St. James North or Barbadians to take it as a foregone conclusion. Like I said, we ran a very strategic campaign that was very much grounded. If you would have noticed, for instance, Mr. Blackman, Chad, his campaign did not speak to anything that the opposition was doing. He spoke about the policy that he intended to do. It was a progressive campaign to say to the Barbadian public, listen, not only do we have a record of fixing things now, but we have a record of what we will do in the future. And we saw Chad putting forward his programs, putting forward his vision. And that is what we focused on, not to, about criticizing and insulting the opposition. I think that was also as well what differentiated the campaign, but very much on our record of the now, but also of the future as well.
Ms. Gilding-Bourne, your views on both Dr. Belle and Dr. Munro's Knight's comments on that issue.
Well, I wouldn't expect them to say anything else. That's the honest truth. But in respect of the criticisms, well, we have, how I thought a by-election was supposed to be handled is you're supposed to address national issues relative to the constituency. And we have a lot of national issues that need addressing. We have rising gun crime, cost of living is high. I mean, there are various issues. And when you're on the platform, well, you're bringing these issues to the public's attention. So it may not necessarily, I wouldn't call it criticizing, I would call it identifying maybe the failures of the Barbados Labour Party. And while we've heard about all the work being done, I don't know if you've been in St. James North, but the roads are absolutely horrible. We had a meeting out Reservoir Road. Out there is deplorable. So there are a lot of issues that the residents have brought to our attention. I'm sure to y'all's attention as well, while y'all were doing y'all canvassing and so forth. But so there are issues that need to be identified. When it comes to criticizing, well, we did hear a lot of rubbish from the Barbados Labour Party with respect to Ms. Dujon and, her, whether she's Barbadian or St. Lucian. We have heard our president being called fluffy on numerous occasions. So, it's like the pot calling the kettle black. So let's just be real. And at the end of the day, it's politics. So you're going to expect a level of competition. That's a given. But we did have a strategy in terms of coming out and meeting the persons, understanding what the issues are. A lot of people have reiterated that there has been a lack of representation in the constituency itself. I mean, we spoke about the lighting, and then we heard that we were going to get lighting in St. James North. So I don't say it so much as criticizing. I don't want to put a negative spin on it like that, but we are identifying the real issues that the residents in St. James North are having. Lighting, as I said, there's a lot of bush. So we brought those issues when we were speaking on the platform. And I don't know, I don't agree totally with everything that either of you said respectfully. Just looking at it from a different light, maybe fresh eyes. But yeah, I expect to have that level of competition or competitiveness. But in terms of how Ms. Dujon presented herself, she was very sure of herself. She had her policies and her ideas she gave. She made sure that even though she was being critical, as you said, of the certain things that the Barbados Labour Party has not done, and she also ensured that she gave her point in terms of solutions to those actual problems. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to state clearly that anyone, you don't have to wait on me to particularly interject with the next question. If you do have a point that someone raised that you want to respond to, just indicate and feel free to do so. We are having that type of informal forum to some degree. In terms of the campaign, apart from the points about body shaming and the points about nationality, I personally, from a journalistic perspective, consider it one of the campaigns with the least amount of mudslinging I've seen for some time. Dr. Belle, how do you think these issues, if any, had any impact, if any, on the actual campaign itself? Do you think that those issues that some might consider, personal, had any impact on the tide of the elections?
I don't really think that people take that seriously. People take that entertainment. There's always an element of entertainment in political mass meetings in Barbados, so that politicians have become accustomed that some of them will entertain, and some of the entertainment is by being personal against people and trying to ridicule people. Of course, ridicule is sometimes an important political battle weapon, because if you can ridicule somebody to the point of them being ridiculous, becoming ridiculous politically, then that is a negative for them. So politicians would not like to be ridiculed too severely, but ridicule is a part of course. Uh, I don't think that, as you said, you didn't think that there was a lot of mudslinging. I don't get the impression that there was a lot of mudslinging either. The two things, the one about size and the other thing about whatever names they were calling the leader of the president of the Democratic Labour Party. I think that's very trivial, and I don't think that it was having any particular big impact. And I think that I think both campaigns moved on from that. So I don't see that as really important. I think that there was enough out there in the society at a big level, particularly in terms of the cost of living and crime, that that would have been, those were two issues that would have given red meat to opposition voices.
Okay, and as a second question, sorry,
I
someone was
would
saying
just
that?
like to add that
Oh, go
I
ahead.
agree with Dr. George Belle where he's talking about ridicule. Um, Aside from the parties themselves, we live in a social media era now. So as soon as you have anything to say in defiance of the government, or even the government themselves when they say stuff, are attacked online. Um, Sometimes rightfully so, other times not. And yes, this is not Girl Scouts, this is not Boy Scouts, this is not brownies, this is politics. Politics has been nasty from time immemorial. Or I've never seen a clean political campaign where there's no mudslinging or there's no name calling. There was a time when politics was real nasty, very nasty in terms of the persons and their speaking against one another and getting really dirty and personal. um, Mr. Thorne has tried to steer us, as when I say us, I mean our DLP team, away from that. We've tried to go above board, right? No, not everybody is as good as others at doing it, you know? Some people still have some learning to do. They still have some expletives under the tongue that need to get out. It's a work in progress. If you're honest with yourself, you know that you're in a work in progress, right? But I don't like the nastiness either. I don't like that. I like to deal with the issues. I don't think anybody body size anything has anything to do with it, but I think the body shaming or the alleged body shaming, let's go with that in terms of go big or go home. I mean, if you call it on yourself and then people pick it up, that's one thing, right? Is another, like I said, calling the kettle black. But I think we are moving away from that nasty politics. A lot of Barbadians don't want that type of politics anymore. They've become woke, if you would like to use that word, and they're paying attention to both parties. I mean, the Democratic Labour Party is being held to a higher standard. For whatever reason, persons still have a stain in their mouth. Not everyone. The tables are turning, maybe slowly, but they're turning based on the reaction that I've got from persons when I'm going out canvassing and people talking and discussing certain things. Some people are very free up and they will tell you straight, I don't want to hear one, or this happened or that happened, or what are y'all going to do? And we really had to put up a case for how we're going to make things different, how we're going to make a brighter Barbados. Um, After 7 years, a lot of people don't see the progress that should have been made, especially with 30 people in the house. But I do agree with Dr. George Belle that, you expect some level of ridicule. That's just what it is. And if you don't have thick skin, and you can't take somebody telling you A, Y, Z, then maybe politics isn't the place for you.
Colville, I don't know if you were coming in with another question, but just very
Go ahead,
briefly, let me just.
Dr.
So
Munto.
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna jump in on the whole thing of the mudslinging, but just to say, I do think that one of the things that this election, this by-election showed, again, is indeed a growing maturity, in the population, right? When it comes to politics and political conversation. So I do agree with the last comment that very much we saw in St. James North, people asking hard questions about how the government, how the society needed to be able to better either deliver services, improve, and what they themselves wanted to be able to see for themselves and for their children. And that is something that the government has always been making space for, right? So whether it's through the Parish Speaks, the ideas forums that we have going on, providing an avenue for people to speak to us, to say to us, this is where we need you to be able to go. These are our expectations. This is where you need to be improved. And that is something that as a government, we will continue to listen to. Like I said, we are assured that we have a record that we are fully convinced, as is Barbados, that we can put before anyone to show, even in St. James North itself, whether or not it is about roads, whether or not it's about the infrastructure in there. Again, not perfect, but we have a record that we can ably defend. But I think that is, Colville, is something that I think is important to note, that maturity in the Barbadian population, and to have those conversations. And certainly for us as the Barbados Labour Party, we valued that engagement on the ground. You would see that our candidate, Chad Blackman, again, and one of the things, again, difference in the campaign, not just complaining, not just engaging people in just conversations, but actually doing and executing. So even before, we've come to this point of what is going to be the outcome, doing tangible investments within communities, right? Again, and that is what we are about. Again, that action, those results, the facing it and the fixing it as well. And that was also part of our strategic game plan, not to treat this just as being a one-time moment, but also a demonstration of our commitment, and our commitment to the community, to the people of St. James North, as real and as evidence that people could actually feel it.
Okay. Dr. Belle, we asked the question earlier as whether this was actually a referendum on government's performance. And I think it's only fair that we ask the question as well. If it's a referendum on the newly minted leadership of opposition leader Ralph Thorne, his first testing battle, so to speak, as it relates to election. And I think this would be of particular interest to Dr. Munto-Knight, as you are seeking to know represent the constituency that Mr. Thorne is now the member of parliament for. Dr. Belle, just weighing on that issue for me.
Make sure my voice is coming up, so just these 1 years. The people will decide whether this thing is a referendum, the electorate. It is that the parties chose the tone and the pitch the campaign at the level of a referendum. It don't mean that the constituents are going to accept that. So that the result is going to let us know whether that particular pitch was working. I think that the parties decided that they wanted that the DLP, I think, actually set the tone. The DLP decided that they should carry out, and I will continue to use the term critique, to critique the government, and they critiqued them on the basis of issues that they felt were real. The electorate would decide whether those issues were real and well-grounded, and then the critique will have legs if they are well-grounded. And the whole issue of it being a referendum will then come into meaningfulness on the basis of the electorate being persuaded in that direction. But until the electorate demonstrates in their performance now in the way that they vote, we cannot be sure that there's been acceptance that it is a referendum. I think that all the pressures and all the campaigning and the effort of the two parties, one, because the Barbados Labour Party had to defend, and the Democratic Labour Party was urgent in that direction. The overall sound of the campaign is one of a referendum. But we will have to see whether the people have, say, James North felt that you should be dealing with parochial issues.
Okay, but in terms of Mr. Thorne's leadership, leading his first,
that was the second thing. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
his first battle. I mean, do you think that he's under the microscope?
Well, of course. And the only problem is that he has, to his advantage, the fact that he is the sitting parliamentarian for the Democratic Labour Party. And if they put pressure on him, they lose all parliamentary presence, because if he did anything negative, like if he decided I'm going to retire, then they have nobody in parliament, and therefore they lose the senators too as well. So that he has to be able to withstand any bad performance that may come out of this campaign. Unlike what happened with Verla de Pisa, for instance, because I have said on more than one occasion that Verla de Pisa should not have interpreted the defeat in 22 as a reflection on her, and she should not therefore have stepped down. But there will be some people that will, especially the people that defected from the Democratic Labour Party or were sticking with Dr. Yarwood. If the Democratic Labour Party does not perform well, they are going to throw it at Mr. Thorne, and Mr. Thorne has to be able then to be able to defend himself on that level. So there is a referendum on Mr. Thorne too, yes. But I do not think that it's going to be easy to attack him in any profound way, because if you can't tell him to leave the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party. If you tell him that and he leaves, then the Democratic Labour Party loses all parliamentary presence. So he has a tremendous tremendous leverage in his hand, which is why he became the political leader, which is why there was a successful palace coup against Ronnie Yarwood, which is why he has been able to some extent build back the Democratic Labour Party even without fully settling the issue of the leadership of Dr. Yarwood. So that he has, and why he was a bridgehead, why he became a bridgehead for the Democratic Labour Party. There are things that are in the favor of Mr. Thorne that will allow him to survive negative pressures.
I don't know, Dr. Belle, if it was people who defected or people who were thrown out and locked out. But I think if we talk about leadership and looking at what Barbados needs now in the context of leadership, and when you look at the leader of the opposition, right? So again, I spoke to the overall international and global environment that we have now, the multiplicity of issues that are taking place. And the country needs at this time stable leadership, caring leadership, leadership that is not factious, leadership that continues to embrace and engage. And certainly the country has said, and I believe that the results of tonight will continue to show that they see the Barbados Labour Party as providing that level of leadership, as opposed to what you have from the other side. I think the other side's record and how they're going about their affairs will speak for itself, right? I can only speak about what the Barbados Labour Party is doing and showing in terms of its record. And I think that right now, as I said before, is what Barbadians are saying that they need to see in a leader, that they need to see in the leadership of Barbados going forward. And the depth of our campaign was just about that. And again, I go to the point of, again, when you look at what the Barbados Labour Party put on our campaign and our record and our focus on policy, our focus on demonstrating and being accountable, yeah, to the people of Barbados for our record as well. Again, shows leadership that is also as well willing to put itself up and say, listen, this is who we are. As I said before, not perfect, but we're also not going to hold our heads down. We're not going to complain again about all of the other pressures, but we are going to stake that record. And I think that the results of tonight will demonstrate again, and it will perhaps, and it should perhaps, if the other side is willing to listen, again, where the Barbadian public is seeing the difference, the maturity, the level of leadership that the Barbados Labour Party continues to have and is putting in a candidate like Chad Black. And it should signal as well where the Barbados Labour Party with the country is going. Chad is a young man. Again, Chad, although he has a legacy, again, a first-time candidate that you trust within that constituency as well. And the tenure of Chad's conversation was there, again, not focused on critiquing, not focused on speaking to the Democratic Labour Party, not focused on speaking to his opposition or the fat shaming issues, etc., but very focused on doing programs and executing programs. Again, and this is what the Barbados Labour Party is about and continues to show and continue to demonstrate and will be continue to be appealing to the public of Barbados.
Miss Gilding-Bourne, I know you're raring to go to respond to that, but let me remind the public quickly that as the results come in, we will share them with you, and we will have that analysis on the results as they come in. So we are awaiting any results, and we may not be able to bring all of them to you tonight, but we would the ones that we are able to cover in the time period that we have, we would certainly bring some in-depth analysis to those results. Ms. Gilding-Bourne, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm not really going to respond to the locked out or pushed out because everybody has their own opinion on the events that took place that day. I mean,
no opinion,
I was
no opinion.
the Party Democratic, but I guess if your behavior determines that you should not be allowed entrance, well, you know, there was some very bombastic behavior going on. I heard a lot of curse words. People were pushing and stuff. You know, I'm an attorney at law, so I didn't involve myself in that because I thought it was not classy at all. So I just left that completely out. With respect to Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, I won't say anything about that either because, you know, that's still an issue that maybe he has to deal with because as far as I'm concerned, the Democratic Labour Party under the leadership of Honorable Ralph Thorne, we've moved on from Dr. Yearwood. We've moved on. I hope he has too, and I wish him all the best in his endeavors, but we have definitely moved on. And yeah, so that's all I will respond in respect of that.
But in terms of this, the results of this election, being and shedding some light or being putting the opposition leader under the microscope, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that he's under any pressure whatsoever?
Of course,
based on the results of the election.
I agree with Dr. George Belle, how his analysis with respect to Mr. Thorne's position in Parliament, and he's being scrutinized, and that, you know, if we have really gotten our message across and the public sees fit to sway in our direction, then, you know, that will increase chances of maybe opening up for others. But as it is now, I do agree with Dr. Shantal Munto-Knight that majority of Barbadians, or I could say majority, you know, still think of the Barbados Labour Party as the preferred option. You know, for whatever reason, whether it may be hands being greased, I don't know, but that's just what it is, right? That doesn't mean that can't change. And I guess that's why everybody is saying that St. James North is so important, right? Because it will really, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we will really see if the people in St. James North are willing to make a change. And if they are willing to make a change, then we understand why they want to change. So all the talk about, having it being a stronghold for the last 35 years and doing absolutely nothing will definitely open up to the public in
Huh.
terms of them, swaying, if it is that they decide to sway in that direction. But, you don't know. A lot of people, I hear the political pundits say, it's going to be a red wash and, Chad Blackman has already won and stuff like that. But we really don't know. Dr. George Belle said it. We have to wait until the electorate makes their vote and all the votes are counted. And then we will be able to make, a good determination as to which direction the public would like to go in. But at this stage, we don't know. We can just guess. Even though Ms. Knight is saying that they have a long track record that they can depend on. I don't know
Sorry,
if it's a good.
Go right ahead, Dr. Munto-Knight.
I apologize. I apologize
No problem.
for
No
cutting
problem at
off at
all.
the end. Sorry. I just wanted to step back on something. So I don't think that Ms. Gilding-Bourne intended to, because I want to be very fair here, to insult either the Barbadian public, by she mentioned something flippantly about
I didn't
hands
mean to
being
insult
used.
anybody, so you don't even have to go there. If I said something that hurt your feelings, I apologize. I didn't mean to insult anybody. I'm just being honest in how I see things. That's all.
Fair
So
enough. And not about hurt feelings, but certainly I believe that we have a mature population, right? And we talked about before the level at which in St. James North, and I believe as well, Ms. Gilding-Bourne spoke to it, people wanted answers to critical questions. And this is not a by-election that is about anybody's, hands being greased or anything like that. I would want us to, again, not insult the population, certainly not people of St. James North, because certainly, like I said, what I saw was mature conversations happening and people going out to make a choice for themselves about what they want for representation for their particular constituency, and then nationally as well. And that is the basis, I believe, that people would go to the polls. I also want to suggest, that when you have a political party that would, put terms of whether or not people's behavior was classy or not. Listen, I think that we often hear from the Democratic Labour Party this notion of a leadership and dictatorship and what it means, and how people lead, but the language that we use to couch how we feel about people's behavior speaks very much of itself, right? And I'm gonna just rest that there because I don't want to belabor that point. I feel that people would understand where I am going, but I do want to say this in terms of the whole issue again of the turnout and what it's likely to be. And I think, Colville, that there is perhaps a larger discussion that needs to be had when we look at that. Certainly, and I'll start first here from just even where I am in Christchurch. So going on the ground, it is clear that we need to have a full enumeration exercise, yeah, that allows us to be able to make sure that we can have an accurate voter count. It is something that the government has started to look at. We had COVID and we had this by-election, etc. But it is something that needs to be looked at. So even in St. James North, right? So I think the numbers, Colville, you might have them there, if I am correct, was about 8,000. What was it? 8,538 persons on the voters list for St. James North. Going about in the constituency, and again, because we had a very strategic, very grounded campaign, looking at the list and talking to people and doing all the door-to-doors, we would have realized that even for that list, you had people who would have moved out, who would have died, who were still being part of that 8,538. And then our estimation, this is our rough estimation, just based on our calculations on the groundwork, is that perhaps that voter list was perhaps closer to about 6.5 or so, should be, just in terms of those people who would have either moved out, like I said, died, immigrated, all of those things. And so one, there's a larger exercise that has to be had to make sure that we have an accurate voters list as well. And if you look at the numbers again from the last census in 2022, and then also as well from the voters list, we would see that there is some anomalies there, right? So the last census put us at what, 267,000, and the voters list was something, I believe, Dr. Belle, I'm not sure if you know, I think it was 261 or so, which put us a little bit of a difference of what, just over 5,000 people being under the age of 18, which realistically, you look at Barbados, does not seem like it could be accurate, right, at all. So I think that there is a larger conversation on one that the government certainly, like I said, has already been working on and will continue to do, to make sure that we have an accurate voters list on the ground. I am eager certainly to see the numbers and to see the results.
The program has frozen. Sorry about that. We seem to have had a little technical difficulty briefly while Dr. Munto-Knight was in mid-sentence. You can continue, Dr. Munto-Knight.
Yeah, I don't know when I was.
You were at the point. You were at the point when about the larger conversation as it relates.
Yes, the larger conversation, right? So I think I made that point already. So I was in one, just in terms of having that enumeration exercise as well, to make sure that we have an accurate count for the voters list that is happening, but also as well the real world on the ground itself tells us that. And I don't think that again, I don't know if the Democratic Labour Party would disagree, but I think that there is agreement as well, that on the ground we are seeing as well. And in St. James North was certainly a good example for us of the fact that we've had some population shifts that have happened that we need to be able to take into account as well.
Dr. Belle, I want you to comment on Dr. Munto-Knight's point that she raised as it relates to the voters list and how we try to get a more accurate depiction of the actual numbers, and also the whole idea. This is not. Yes, is everyone with me?
No.
Yeah, you froze just now. You froze just now, actually, so we didn't hear the second part of the question.
Hi, good night. Everyone is there?
Yeah.
Yes, everyone is here. Okay, great. This is not the first time we have heard this talk, this rhetoric of vote buying. I'm gonna put it out there plainly. How do we eradicate that conversation from our electoral landscape? Are there any measures that we can put in place from electoral governance that we can ensure that this conversation is no longer a factor in our electoral landscape?
What is aimed at me?
Are you hearing me?
You're asking me to comment on that?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you were tying the two things together, the thing about the voters list and the buying of votes. So that you didn't intend to do that. You were just raising two different issues.
Correct. Two different issues. No intention to conflate and conjoin both issues by any stretch of the imagination.
Well,
no.
In relation to the first thing, that is an ongoing thing in all liberal democracies. The cleaning of the voters list, the updating. That is just a necessity of human society. The people that are dying, the people that are moving, and so on. And it is that the people that are in charge of the enumeration, they have to keep up to mark. So it's an ongoing work, and it is best that it gives the best reflection of the reality up there. And if there is any departure between what is up there and what people voting on it. It can make the performance of the parties look bad. It can also make the performance of the electorate look bad. Like if they're alienated from politics and that kind of thing. So that it is our responsibility of the persons in charge of electioneering to keep the data accurate and as precise as possible. But it's an ongoing task, and it is not strange that you get that kind of problem developing over time, because it's natural, it is a natural part of society that would happen. It's a natural part of the movement of people and so on, and the maturing of people and the dying of people and so on. So that we expect that to go on. We don't want it to get bad until it makes the turnouts get discarded, So I would say that's an ongoing thing. So I agree with what Dr. Munto-Knight is saying, that we need to keep that clean and keep it up to date. The other problem is a cultural problem, very often related to patron-client type politics. There are many countries that have it worse than Barbados, and then it can lead to what you call garrison constituencies and stuffing of ballot boxes and all kinds of things that can go on, and abuses of the electoral system. And it is a feature that is coming into Barbadian politics because of the desperation of some people, the cynicism as well, and a lot of people feel that they don't trust any of the politicians, and therefore it's a question of who gives me the most in the short term, even not even in the long term. So there's a kind of callousness that can develop culturally in the community. You have to engage that with a lot of political education and a lot of interventions in relation to cultural decay in the society. I think that is really what you're dealing with there, as is the case with things like crime and all that. We've reached crime is that you need immediate interventions as distinct from the longer term thing, but the longer term thing, the longer term treatment has to be in place as well. That feature of cultural declines in the voting behavior and in people's attitudes towards politicians and politics, that is a requirement of education, of interventions that bring up people's cultural levels and inhibits degenerate behavior. But if you allow the degenerate behavior to multiply, you're going to get that kind of crass misuse of politics in the community, which will bring some very bad results, because it will not be a true reflection of what the society needs. It will end up in a lot of very opportunist behavior, and eventually it will end up in manipulative behavior of a type that is extremely negative for the population and for the society.
Okay. We haven't seen any results as yet, but as we look at the numbers over the last 3 elections, I wouldn't go box by box, but I will look at the tallies. 2013 seems to be the most closely contested election. 21-24 for the DLP in 2013, and 25-58 for I think that's when Mr. Hinkson would have made his debut, if I'm not mistaken. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Belle. The slide afterwards was quite dramatic. I mean, 2018 was a massive swing election. 3,716 for the Barbados Labour Party compared to 592, quite a substantial margin. 2022, 608 for the Democratic Labour Party and 2,536 for the Barbados Labour Party. But obviously we have to consider that 2022 was a COVID election, and voter turnout would have been on the downward slide as a result for myriad reasons.
When we
Um,
started.
yeah, for myriad reasons at the time. Um, Looking at the historical trends, Dr. Bell, I mean, what needs to change in terms of maybe the swing, the margin of swing, or what can you tell us historically? If there are any comparisons from for the maybe the one time that the Democratic Labour Party took that seat, that could be juxtaposed to the current situation, that we can maybe find some analysis as to what could happen to see anything other than what persons are from what I'm hearing on the ground is almost an inevitability.
So even though I made the point, that you're ready for the electorate to demonstrate how people reacted to the campaigns, it wasn't guesswork. One was coming to the conclusion that the Barbados Labour Party should win the seat. That is not guesswork. That is which Miss Gilding-Bourne referred to. No, it is not guesswork at all. The historical data is saying that the Barbados Labour Party has advantage, and the Barbados Labour Party has only performed badly enough in that constituency once in almost like post independence period at all. So that it is a stronghold of the Barbados Labour Party. But that is the vulnerability also of the Barbados Labour Party if the electorate does not respond positively to it, because you can read in that people are reacting against it. And that is where the referendum point comes in. But it is not guesswork. The data is saying Barbados Labour Party should win. The data is saying Barbados Labour Party should win well too. The data is saying that if the Barbados Labour Party does not perform well, that it will reflect the sway against the Barbados Labour Party. But what we will do then is have to assess what is the swing and if it has implications for the rest of Barbados. But that is how we would have to treat that. But the data is clear. This is a stronghold of the Barbados Labour Party.
Either Dr. Munto-Knight or Ms. Gilding-Bourne, do you care to weigh in on that?
Well, I can't agree with that assessment because, as Dr. Bell said, the data shows what has transpired over the last couple of years. With respect to 2022, though, COVID did really put a spoke in the wheel of, I guess, the political engine, if you want to say that, because if I recall, and Dr. Bell could correct me, I think it was about 9% or so of the registered voters voted. I mean, that was a very low turnout. And I think you would have heard Honorable Ralph Thorne on the platform mention something like 15,000 persons were in quarantine. I can be corrected if I'm incorrect with the numbers, but about 15,000 people were in quarantine who were able to vote. I guess that brings up another topic too in that regard, because I think at that time too, Bahamas had a similar issue, but they made sure that those persons that were in quarantine were able to vote, but we didn't. So maybe that's one thing that we could look to improve with respect to voting in general. Should God forbid that happen ever again, something different would occur. So that definitely hurt the Democratic Labour Party in terms of trying to win the government in 2022. But I do agree with Dr. Bell's assessment because I guess based on the data from previous years, it suggests that the Barbados Labour Party would win, but that does not mean that they will. We still put in a good fight, and the electorate will have to let us know.
Dr. Munto-Knight, before you respond, I just want to add a caveat. How does a party, I mean, that clearly all indicators based on historical trajectory and so on is suggesting that the result is foregone. How do you then remain focused and motivated and to contest an election as if you were indeed behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. And thanks, Colville, for that, because certainly I would say that that's a challenge, right? And the challenge is therefore that the population itself can then become complacent, and then they might view it as a foregone conclusion. So the responsibility and the effort at mobilization to get the vote out then becomes more intense and more important for the party, and certainly for the Barbados Labour Party as well, that we want people to know that it's still important to come out to still vote. Our mantra again was always that support is not equal to support is not votes. You actually have to come out and make sure you put your X there and show that support in a very tangible way. And we did not rest at all on the historical record, even though Dr. Belle, yes, that's the nature of the record, the fact of the record there. But we undertook a campaign that was like we were engaging the population as if we were coming to them fresh and for the first time in the same way, right? Yes, with a history of having been there, but as well presenting ourselves as a party of choice, similar to the other party, not as a party that is a foregone conclusion. But it did mean that we did have to do quite a bit of work in order to make sure that even though the support was there, even though the support was felt, and even though, again, the data showed, we wanted to make sure that we could actually mobilize people to come out on that day to put the X on. Colville, I know that we don't seem to have any results as yet, but again, I am suggesting that we will see those results showing it. And again, not only because of the historical data, but I think that the Barbados Labour Party also had the best candidate as well. And I think the people of St. James North will respond to that.
Dr. Belle, and that brings me to this question. I mean, the last performance, 608, what would be a benchmark for the Democratic Labour Party? And again, I would not dare to try to suggest that it's a foregone conclusion. I'm just saying that is what is being said on the ground and that what the historical record shows. But what would be a benchmark for the Democratic Labour Party?
No, I wouldn't want to go into no guesstimate on that. No. I think you have to wait on real performance. And because even then, you're going to have an assessment. You're going to have to assess to what extent the DLP did things that would have been positive to lead to whatever amount of swing or whatever. But to what extent did the Barbados Party do things that were responsible for negative swing, if that is the case? It is. I don't think that it is particularly useful to speculate on some statistical percentage in terms of whether the DLP reaches a particular benchmark. I would have to see what happens and then assess what I see. I think that is the better approach, even if some other people might do otherwise. You have people that are into psychology that will want to probably project beforehand to show how great they are predicted. But I think that you have to be a bit cautious there. And I think you have, in a sense, you're being respectful to the electorate. Let them show. So that is why I'm putting that emphasis on let them show. And at the same time, saying there's hard historical data saying that this is how they're likely to behave, because that now gives to psychology a basis for how people will perform, that they don't usually remove themselves from a particular pattern easily over time, even in generations. And that is where you can build a science on that. But it doesn't mean that we're not dealing with human beings. This is not natural science. Even in natural science, the natural science is not as certain as some people think. But human behavior is very uncertain. And but we try to get some certainty so that we can make predictions and claim to be scientific, And it is in that sense that we're saying the data there is saying BLP, but behavior is going to tell us a lot about how well the BLP is doing. And then we assess the two things. And we assess them at a range of levels, not just on one level here. And this is why the thing with the COVID thing. You have to be very careful with how you deal with that 22 thing, because it's not. If the BLP lost a whole set of support compared with 22, it's that a lot of those people were complacent as well. They felt never anyhow, and they stayed home. The DLP then, why didn't the DLP even come out? You know, and so on. So you can go down those lines and argue both ways and so on. So I think that COVID election really needs to be thrown out of any base analysis for the future.
Okay. Do you and I have my follow-up question to both representatives of the respective parties. Do you think that in your campaign that your messages permeated beyond the party lines? What are your thoughts along that line?
I would say to you, sorry, I don't know if
No, go ahead. You start, Dr. Munto-Knight, since you got
yeah, so thank you. And this is just from being on the ground, and I am going to be, as Ms. Gilding-Bourne would have indicated, very honest and very upfront here, right? So what we saw on the ground, and certainly myself being on the ground today for the whole day on the ground within the constituency, is that people who would have initially said, listen, I'm not so sure, about either voting initially when we first started, or who were indicated as perhaps strong supporters of the other side on the day of the election, then one changing their minds and coming out to vote and going out to vote. Now, how they voted, but at least we got an indication that people moved from their initial position of saying, perhaps we were a little bit unsure, then to saying, we want to be able to participate in the by-election. And I think that for us suggested again that that movement of people who would have initially said, listen, we're a little bit unsure here, and then being able to say, yes, have some transport, come pick me up, because we're going to go to the polls and vote. Suggested to us again as a Colville that our message allowed people to be able to move, to change their minds, the level of engagement, whether it is from what we'd have done on the ground in terms of direct canvassing or the messaging that would have come from the platforms, would have had an impact on people's attitude about the process, people's attitude about whether or not they would engage, right? And I think that is also the value, perhaps, of this by-election, certainly for the Barbados Labour Party, is that in a very grounded way in St. James North, connecting with those people within St. James North, understanding their issues and hearing their issues, and people as well being able to hear us speak to them and having that level of engagement and mature engagement. And I want to just throw this in there because I saw a comment that popped up again, on the issue of vote buying, and I'm a little bit, I don't want anybody who's coming to the conversation late to take away that the conversation about vote buying, as far as I am aware, was a general one, and that there was no suggestion, unless I'm going to be told otherwise, that anything of that nature happened in the St. James North constituency. And I just want to make sure that we are having the same conversation, because that is important in here, that the conversation around the notion of vote buying was a very general one and was not anything that had to do with any occurrence happening in St. James North, as far as I'm aware.
Ms. Gilding-Bourne?
Well, yeah, the comment was being made general. You made a comment, Mr. Mounsey, and we were discussing it. I don't think anybody got that interpretation, but clarity, no, it was being generally made.
Okay. But as it relates to the initial point that Dr. Belle made, you have any perspective on that as it relates to not Dr. Belle, Dr. Munto-Knight made about how her party permeated the lines. Do you think that your campaign, your party's campaign, achieved similar results?
Well, the feeling on the ground was encouraging. That's what I can say. We did meet
Seem
Barbados
to be
Labour Party
stuck
person.
at this point.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I am hearing you now. Yes, right. So, yeah, in terms of permeating the party lines and reaching across that threshold, do you think your party successfully achieved that in this campaign?
I think we did what we set out to do. Um, we did meet Barbados Labour Party members because we aspire to go to each and every single household, regardless of party colors. And yes, some people were frustrated with the current administration. They were frustrated about what's happening and the lack of representation in the constituency. A lot of people complained about the previous candidate who, for whatever reason, the people weren't seeing him, and they were giving us the impression, or they were saying outright, I'm not voting. I don't care about the politics. Whatever happened, happened. And I had to, on a few occasions, actually put up a case for these people to let them know your vote is important. And yes, if you don't like what is going on with the Barbados Labour Party, don't just stay home. Show them with your vote. And on the other side, if you don't want the Democratic Labour Party, don't stay home and complain about what Ralph is doing. Go out and vote. So I found quite a few people weren't interested in voting anymore. They just didn't care because they were distrustful of politicians. All politicians are the same. And the next one that come in and do anything more than the other one that just left. So, but there are persons that are stronghold Democratic Labour Party people, and regardless of what happened, they vote in Dems. Same thing on the BLP. But I think we got our message across because people came out. As you can see, people came out in their numbers today. Like this night, I don't know who to vote for, but I was glad to see the amount of people coming out, and young people too. And yeah, so we made sure that dis- persons with disabilities and elderly people that, told us that they have transportation, so they ain't coming and stuff. We made sure that they had adequate transportation to and from. Um, so I think we did a good job in executing our plan. As Dr. Bell said, you have to wait until the electorate makes their decision. But I think we did a good job.
Okay. Well, in speaking of waiting until the decision, we are still awaiting those first results to try to have an indication of how things are going. My producer, as soon as the first results are made known, would definitely inform me of that, and therefore inter alia inform the panel and the public at large. Um, Regardless of the winner, however, what should, because I think I was just being informed that counting has indeed started, no results as yet. So I think that it's a small amount of votes. I think we should get results in very shortly. But just to continue along the conversation, regardless of the winner, the whole idea of representative politics. I mean, what should be the immediate priority of the new MP for St. James North? Dr. Bell, we'll start with you.
Well, any new MP will have to, either both will be, either one will be a new presence, and they have to consolidate, either winner would have to consolidate themselves within the constituency. And that is exacerbated too because, in my view, both parties suffer from a decline in organization at the constituency level. And both parties require some revitalization of the of party organization, both at the structure of the constituency branch and in the activity of the constituency branches. I believe that Barbados requires greater effort in the constituency branches of the parties to raise the political culture, again, to deal with some of the degeneracy that we were talking about earlier. All of that. But besides that, the knowledge and sophistication of the Barbadian electorate as well has declined relative to the decline in party organization and in the attention being paid to constituency branch meetings. And that, I think that social media has impacted on that. That a lot of the politicians are starting to rely on that technology and neglecting infrastructural organization within the party. And it is to the disservice of the sophistication of the electorate. So that I think that any candidate that wins now should be a part of the reform of the party system. But it's not going to be exclusive to St. James, or it is that it requires that kind of reform of the party system is required across the country in both political parties. That there's been too much neglect of the quality of work being done at the constituency branch level.
And I would invite the other two guests, starting with Ms. Gilding-Bourne. What are your thoughts in terms of mission critical, if I may borrow the Prime Minister's phrase, for the...
I agree. For the winning candidate, they have to get in the constituency immediately, because we have had an unfortunate display of missing MPs. The Barbados Labour Party is in power now, so when I go canvassing in my constituency, that is one thing that I hear repeatedly. And we heard it in St. James North, and some of my other colleagues, when they're going out and they're canvassing in the constituency, that's what they hear as well. So really and truly, we have to get away from this era of hide and seek politicians, where the people on the ground have to go hiding and seeking, looking for their representative. And with respect to the social media comment, there's been a debate between the younger and the older generation as to how that should be used. I think both should complement each other. You have to get into the constituency on the ground. You have to use the organized constituency council that you have within your party. I agree with Dr. Belle, but this is a new era of politics that we're in, and you have to integrate social media into that. However you do it, but you have to do it. We tried with the Democratic Labour Party. We have DLP TV. The Marcia Week show is also helpful with respect to getting our message out. And you have to engage with that demographic, because there's a certain demographic that uses social media more so than others. And that's generally the younger generation. And, you want to get those persons' attention, social media. But I think it was, you have to walk off 5 pairs of shoes. I was told when I first came into this thing, and I said, I want to go, I want to be a candidate. It was like, well, you have to walk off 5 pairs of shoes and make sure you got 2 extra shoes, because you have to get and engage with the people. So I think better organization. I don't know anything about the Barbados Labour Party side, but from what Dr. George Belle just said, both parties maybe lacking slightly in that regard. More attention should be paid for that. So I guess whoever the candidate comes into, what I would say is don't disappear.
Dr. Munto-Knight? Senator?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Colville, for that, and also to Dr. George as well for his comments. So I think there are a number of things that we need to do going forward. I mean, the government has embarked on a larger program of governance reform as a whole. So I think Barbados knows we have a constitutional reform commission that's happening, and we also had the PRC report, which is the Parliamentary Reform Commission as well, which is seeking to engender some level of innovation and some big reforms into the parliamentary process and big conversations about how we organize at that larger governance level. And that is change that needs to happen, like I said, at that bigger overarching level. I agree a little bit with what Dr. Belle is suggesting in terms of the attention that needs to be paid to the party machinery on the ground, right? And
Not
how
crossing you, doctor, not crossing you, doctor. But I've been just sent a message with some results. Are you not? We not having no results yet? Did you get anything?
I will check with the producer again. What results are you getting?
Dr. Monroe, go ahead.
My producer is saying nothing as yet, but you're having results.
No, my phone is messaging off, so I'm saying something got to be happening.
Oh, okay. In the meantime, Dr. Munto-Knight, until we check on the results, please continue.
All right, thank you for that. So I was saying that there's a larger governance reform agenda that has to happen there. The notion of the footprint of the politician, and in our society and across the region, that very often is someone who has a full-time job. If you are in government, it means that you're running a ministry, but then you're also as well working within your constituency. If you are in opposition, perhaps have a full-time job, but then you also have to be on the ground. And what that looks like and the expectations of the constituency and the society is something that we have to be able to engage in a very frontal way. And then agreeing with Dr. Belle's point about the need to make sure then that we have a party machinery, a constituency machinery that then responds directly to people's needs as well, so that constituents can feel that they are continually engaged. The Barbados Labour Party, however, I think we have looked at this issue very frontally. So that currently we are undertaking a process of, I'm going to call it re-education of our membership, and Dr. Belle, you talked about it, a revitalization of our party machinery. And we have been having strategic conversations about what party looks like 10, 15 years from now. How do we engage with youth? How do we engage with women? How those various arms within the party system should look like? And what is a more engaged structure on the ground? But I believe that also has to take into consideration some other threats that are happening nationally, and perhaps some people would say even globally. Volunteerism and the extent to which people are willing to come into a political machinery to give of their time fully, to go out and canvass and walk off, as Ms. Gilding-Bourne was saying, the 5 pairs of shoes, which was a large feature of the political party structure before. Do we have that same level of commitment, particularly in today's environment as well? The notion of, again, how do we engage people within a society, as somebody was saying, in which the social media is now paramount, in which individualism, rather than coming out and engaging and doing community activities, is not a priority. It is not something that people right now are following, as opposed, like I said, to individual activities, staying within either their own homes, etc. So that there are a multiplicity of issues that, yes, have to do with party structure, but also as well have to do with wider socio-cultural trends that are happening. And a good political party, as the Barbados Labour Party has already been doing, has been contending with these issues, looking at how we change our party structure. I wouldn't speak specifically to some of the things that we have been doing as well, but certainly within the Barbados Labour Party, we have a mandate of how many branch meetings we need to be able to have to engage people, the tenure of the branch meetings, again, and the extent to which, as a candidate or as a MP, that you are undertaking activities that will engage people within the constituency in a way that is not just about Dr. Belle, the garrison politics, the transactional politics, but really and truly attend to some of the real social needs of people on the ground. So a bigger governance conversation, again, which the government is engaging at the reform level, but agreeing that at the party level as well, within communities, that we need to begin to think about how we reorganize in the context of wider societal changes as well.
Okay. Um, as one of the conversations we've had in the last few years has been the whole notion of our aging population, and the fact that we basically basically in an era of a silver economy. Persons The average age range of the persons within between middle age to elderly. Um, in canvassing, and this is we start with Dr. Munto-Knight, but in canvassing, how much did you see this reflected in the demographic of the constituency? And do you think that any changes need to be made in trying to cater to that aging demographic?
Thank you for that, Colville. So yes, I think that St. James North reflected the larger national demographics, right, within respect to the aging population, lots of older people as well. And I think perhaps because of the nature of the constituency, you saw that even a little bit more, right? So quite a few people, I remember there was a gentleman who we saw walking on the road, and when we checked, he was like 96. So we saw quite a lot of people, 96, 80, 86, but living very well, very healthy as well, having, active lives. And so we are seeing that trend. We saw that trend rather in St. James North, really reflecting the national trend. And I think the government, as you would be aware, has been talking about how we, as you say, make sure that we pay attention to the elderly within our society. We would have taken to Parliament a population policy. We would have been speaking to the issues you would have seen within the Ministry of People's Empowerment. Minister Kurt Humphrey, I think one of the biggest champions nationally and for the government in terms of advancing a program to ensure that we protect our elderly as well and provide the necessary care. The government is looking at undertaking a program where we provide at the very community level rather than taking elderly people outside of their homes for care to be placed either within the geriatric or in private care, that we are able to train up within communities, nurses, not nurses, but actually happen within the community who can help care for them, provide meals, attend to some basic needs for them within their communities. Now, I think that there are a number of disturbing trends that are happening within our society that not only the government can respond to, right, when it comes to the elderly, and how a nation treats its elderly should also as well speak to the level of care that we have for one another. And the fact that we have such a large percentage of elderly people being left at our hospitals, being attacked, as we would have seen recently, would suggest to us our society is changing, and changing in the way that we look at our elderly and care for our elderly as well. But the government itself is doing as much as it can in respect to making sure that we can protect that population and care for that population, even Colville, also as well as we ensure that the young people, that our young people as well, have what they need to feel empowered, what they need to also as well develop. The Ministry of Youth Affairs has a large program of youth empowerment, youth engagement, youth training as well. So paying attention to the elderly, but also as well making sure that we can attend to our young people, even in terms of reskilling them, making sure that they have the requisite skills to be able to compete at the level. So how we balance those things is something that as a government is forefront, that we're paying attention to in a very practical and real way, but also something as well that we will continue to engage the population in conversation on.
Okay, now we are seeing finally the first of our results coming in. Box SA1 A2H, Felicia Dujon, 15 votes. Blackman, Chad Blackman, 292 votes. Mitchell, independent candidates, Mitchell, 0. Williams, 0. Box SA1, and that's from I to Z, so I think that's the completion of the box now. Dujon, 17. Blackman, 238. Mitchell, 0. And Williams, 2 votes. Now, if we do a tally of those, let's see, 17 and 15, that would be how much? My maths, I am not very good at calculating on the fly. Let's do some maths quickly.
That's 32, huh?
Huh? Hello?
Hi, sorry, I thought you were, sorry, I was trying to help you to tabulate, but I don't know if we're tabulating the same thing. Right,
Please,
right.
Feel free. So that's
Chad,
32 votes.
Chad 9, as far as I am, that's 32 votes. That's what I counted. I don't know if the representative from the Democratic Labour Party has dropped off.
And
so that's
Blackman, let's see, 298 plus 238. That's 536 votes.
536.
So already, Dr. Belle, we are seeing. Hello?
Is that?
Let me hear what you were giving totals or something.
I didn't hear you, Dr. Belle.
You were giving totals of the box.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I think that's the completion of the box. Because the first part was A to H and the second part was I to Z. So that seems to be the completion of box SA1.
Right, and you gave a total then.
Right, and the last, so in 2013, the DLP would have, their best year would have gotten 208. 2018.
I don't think you need to go back to
so
in 2018, sorry.
2018, you could toggle between 2018 and 2022 then?
Yeah, and then...
Okay, so 2018, the DLP got 54 votes. And in 2022, 47 votes. In 2018, 693 for the BLP. And in 2022, 451. So here we see Mr. Blackman.
And now it is 500 and something, you said?
536, based on my crude mathematics.
And the 28,
536 for Mr. Blackman, and 32 for Miss Felicia Dujon. So we see Miss Dujon in that box at least underperforming in from 2018 and 22. Mr. Blackman underperforming slightly by 100 plus votes in 2018 from 2018, but surpassing 2022 again, which was a COVID election, which was 451 votes.
I don't think it's striking there that away from what was the expectation, but I think that it's because as I said, I would take out 2022, and therefore you expect that the 2018 performance is a fairly dramatic performance because it is like people were trying to get rid of a government, and I think that therefore that what you're seeing here now is it's a strong constituency in which the Barbados Labour Party in that box has maintained itself. But of course you don't jump ahead now and start talking like if you're seeing the whole result. But that is consistent with what you would expect to see.
Is there anything in particular about that SA1 box that would suggest that the results were not necessarily going to change? Is it one of the stronger areas?
Give me the geography of that again, Lee.
Correct.
Give the geography of it.
The geography of it, I am not exactly that familiar with.
Yeah, do you have a map in front of you?
Sorry, no, I don't have a map I don't have a map in front of me, sir, at the moment.
But other than that, because we can geographically, if you could see the geography of the thing, it would help, you know. But there's some people that know that those things straight in the head, but I can't. I would need to see them.
We are seeing more results coming in again. SA2, A2I. Miss Dujon is 31. Mr. Blackman is 186. And Mr. Mitchell 0. Williams 2. SA2, J to Z. Dujon 23. Mr. Blackman 196. Mitchell 0. Williams 3. So again, 23 and 31, that's 54. That seems to be the completion of that box, SA2. 54. Again, underperforming both for the DLP, both 2018 and 2022, which were 58 and 77 respectively. Mr. Blackman 196 and hold on, 196 and 186. And again, let me go back to my calculator.
That's 332, huh?
332. Okay. That's just about par. Well, actually, 2018 is below par for 2018. It's like 511, but 2022 is still under par as well too, which was 376. Anything there, Dr. Belle?
But he got how much in 22?
In 2022, for which one? The DLP or the BLP?
The BLP.
The BLP, 376.
And now he's getting
382.
382. Oh, so it's actually above.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that I don't like the 22 election at all in terms of judging anything from it. And I'm saying that the 2018 election is a dramatic election because it is a determined effort to get rid of a government. And I, therefore, again, this is consistent with expectation, I think.
Okay. Any input from representative of both parties as the results show at this point?
Yeah, but as Dr. Belle said, and we could accept, again, that the 2022 results, again, there were so much mitigating factors. 2018, again, being a full swing, I believe that what the figures are showing, again, one is maintenance of the confidence of the Barbadian public thus far in the boxes that we have. So again, not overestimating, but certainly showing a retention of that confidence for the Barbados Labour Party, and then confidence in the candidate for St. James North, which is a sustained confidence and not necessarily any loss if we go back to that big competition that we were having about a referendum. Yeah, within that respect. But it's interesting that if we look at that context of a referendum, and if we say that the Barbados Labour Party is maintaining the level of confidence that the people of Barbados are showing, but perhaps the Democratic Labour Party needs to have a conversation about what is it showing in relation to them and their candidate, if there's been no improvement at all whatsoever in the performance.
Ms. Gilding-Bourne?
And showing decline, actually, showing decline.
Okay. Mr. Gilding-Bourne, how do you respond to that? I am sure that you're, so far, the candidate is not performing below the bar, which is kind of low for both 2018 and 22. Your thoughts on that? Anything to read into that?
Well, maybe we may have some twinkering or tinkering to do, but let's say the least, at least she's gotten more than 37 votes. Currently, Barbados Labour Party, she wasn't going to get more than that. So, kudos for that. But we have to wait until the other boxes come in. But as Dr. George Belle said, based on the previous voting data and figures, we're right in where we should be in terms of the Barbados Labour Party holding on to their stronghold. Um, I think maybe what Miss Dr. Shantal Munto-Knight said in relation to the figures showing that the electorate is still holding confidence with the Barbados Labour Party, and therefore that is showing in the numbers that we're seeing. Um, there is some truth to that. I mean, otherwise, then we wouldn't be seeing the votes that we're getting, right? However, we still have other boxes to go.
Okay. If we may look at some of the figures, let's see, SB1 and SC1 and SD1 seem to be some of the stronger performing boxes in 2022 and to a lesser extent 2018. Um, Miss Gilding-Bourne, any in terms of
You mean stronger for the DLP?
for the DLP, stronger performing boxes for the DLP. Again, it's unfortunate I don't have the geography before me that we can pinpoint
Yes.
which areas these are specifically. But
Neither
Ms.
do I,
Gillenborn,
Mr. Moonsey. No, neither do I. We'll
right?
depend on Dr. George Bell for
No,
some
I don't have a
historical
map in that.
convenience.
Unfortunately,
No.
I don't have my map in front of me. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I would be guessing it, and I don't want to do that.
But in your canvassing, Ms. Gildenborn, did you come across any area that you were particularly hopeful, based on the response that you would have been getting from the public?
not particularly. I was hopeful for every area. That's the truth. We put in the work for each and every area. So, you know, Miss Dujon likes to say, we leave it in God's hands. After we've done the due diligence and we've done what we set out to do, I guess with these type of results, obviously there's some tinkering to be done, right? So far with these results. But it's encouraging because, based on the political pundit, she wasn't going to get one vote. She got more than one vote. So
Well,
clearly we've got to through to some persons.
I wonder which one this would have said
Well,
that.
well,
Certainly not me.
some might argue that's quite a low bar. So I would we will see as the night go along. But as a question to both representatives of the party who are coincidentally dipping their toe in elective politics, what are the takeaways that you're seeing in terms of your own campaign, in terms of what you have to do to get over the mark? What lessons are you getting?
Well, at least for me, a few lessons here, and again, it can be a reiteration. I think one, the demonstration of the maturity of the public, the constituents, in terms of the level of conversation. I think we've gone past that, what we call the old time kind of politics, which is just extremely transactional, and even the politics in which a candidate can just present itself as belonging to the party, even in a stronghold, and expect that there will be loyalty just to that, regardless of whether it is a stronghold or not. People want clear responses. They want to understand the plans that you have. So having a clear plan, having an understanding of what is happening within the constituency, what is happening nationally, and that trajectory is extremely important in order for us to be able to respond to people and meet their needs. I think secondly as well, the and we talked about it, the dynamic that are changing at the population as well as something that we have to be able to manage. And it may be different in each area, or it may reflect the national trends. But certainly if I look at my constituency that I'm hoping to represent, Christchurch South, one of the things that I'm coming across, Colville, is that issue of, again, care for the elderly. So in my constituency, there are several elderly people who live alone, live by themselves, nobody around, and that is creating also isolation. And even where you have so-called party support within amongst those elderly people. The extent to which you as a candidate and a representative can attend to those specific needs as well, also as well is a test of how well you will be able in future, once you are successful, to be able to take care of your constituencies. And I think as well, one of the things that stood with me as well is, again, young people. Again, we have this perception in Barbados, and again, I know the gun crime is very paramount in everybody's mind. But you know, even engaging in Christchurch South and then in St. James North, and I was more on the St. Peter end of the canvassing in that area. Young people, again, are one, very engaged, very, very knowledgeable about what is happening within the country, so they will ask you hard questions, believe me. And secondly, as well, they're also as well very productive and doing some innovative things, right? And I think that, for me, and I knew it again because of canvassing in Christchurch South, but as well reaffirming there that yes, we do have this big concern in terms of gun violence, but it's not every young person. It perhaps may not even be the majority of young people. That there are young people within our nation, within districts, within communities and constituencies who want to do big, productive things, have big ideas, and how we treat to that at a national level and at a representative level is something that we have to be serious and very conscious about in terms of not making assumptions there. And then finally, Colville, I think the level of organization, as you said, on the ground, and as Dr. Belle was commenting, how we remain engaged. People want to see representatives that are engaged with the young people within their areas. In St. James North, for instance, I was speaking to one lady and she said, listen, we have so many young people here. We want to be able to have a park. We want to be able to have activities for them. And I was able to point to her that Chad had already started the robotics camp for young people. And those are the kinds of activities now. So again, it's not carby for biscuits, People want
Dr. Munto-Knight, I just want to interject briefly. For the results, St. James North, SA3, that's H to G. Blackman is 116. Miss Dujon, 22. Mitchell, 0. Williams, 2. So that's SA3. Sorry, I think I got that a little mixed up there. It seems like the entire box is in now. So let me repeat. SA3, A2G, Blackman, 93. Dujon, 30. Mitchell, 0. Williams, 1. SA3, H to G, Blackman, 116. Dujon, 22. Mitchell, 0. Williams, 2. And Dr. Munto-Knight, as the resident mathematician, if you may indulge us with the quick calculations.
I'm not trying to get, because I see 3 different things about SA3 here. So it's 2 boxes, right?
Right.
As you were saying, so 93.
Oh, sorry, SA4, A to G, right? And
oh gosh.
Wow, I'm okay. This is coming
so
in.
It seems like it's 2 SA3s and then SA4.
So there's another result for SA4, A to G.
Right. So
that's another result.
Okay. So if we do SA3, A to G, Blackman is 93, Dujon is 30, and then SA3H to G. But I don't know if this is the total.
No, this one is the total.
Because you got A to G and then H to G.
Oh.
So that is a little bit confusing there. A to G and then H to G.
Combining those two.
Yeah,
right. So I'm not sure.
I think the producer is saying that these are total, so that might be a typo in terms of the representation. But the producer is saying that SA3 it should have been H to Z. So she is saying that that's a total. So that's SA3 complete.
Right. So that's still 116. Yeah, those are 116 at 22. That's 52, if I'm understanding it correctly. 52 for Felicia for SA3, and 219, is it? 93,
Uh,
116.
okay, and that's pretty even keel for 2022, which was 60 for the DLP and 207 for the Barbados Labour Party. Again, in the watershed of 2018, it was 321 when there was a massive swing. We seem to have SA4 completed as well. A2G, that's Blackman 83, Lujan 38, Mitchell 0, Williams 2. For the results, SA 4, H to Z, Blackman 113, Dujon 43, Mitchell 2, Williams 2.
So that looks like it's that's 81 for Felicia Dujon and 196 for Chad.
And in this box, she doubled 2022 performance, and well, not quite, yeah, double basically, and was just under par in 2018, which was 114. That's the Democratic Labour Party candidate, and in for Mr. Blackman in 2022, for that same box, it was 229 and 333 in 2018. So as we are seeing, the results are coming in quite fast and furious. Again, Dr. Belle, anything that we can read?
I'm just saying consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah, and it is. It's almost like if the Barbados Labour Party just holding before and going through. So I am not seeing anything dramatic away from the north, from what you would expect.
Okay. Ms. Gilding-Bourne, is there anything happening that we can look at, especially in SA4, where, we would have exceeded the 2022 results?
No, well, without the map, I am not able really to, expand on that. But obviously, the message was more crystalline in that area based on the numbers that have come out.
Okay.
I think the Democratic Labour Party would have to be saying that even though they came out of trauma, is that they are being consistent in relation to performance going back even to 2018 and coming forward, that they have not, the trauma that they went through has not resulted in them be performing even worse than what they were doing before. They're not performing well enough. So the party is saying the party has not recovered properly, but it is saying that the party may have stalled the decline. And I think that would be the most positive interpretation they can make of these results, because what you're saying is something consistent with what we would expect.
No further
I'm not as enthusiastic as Dr. Belle, and I hear it's a very positive spin for the Democratic Labour Party, and I'll rest there. But certainly for the Barbados Labour Party.
No, I wasn't making no spin for the Democratic Labour Party.
I think you're positive. You're very positive. Let me say you're very positive.
Let's call it mature. Let's call it mature and knowledgeable.
I was trying to see how the Democratic Labour Party could make something of what we are seeing here.
Okay, could possibly make something.
Remember that we were saying that we are saying that the party tried to turn it into a referendum. We know that the party is in a process of recovery. Now, if it was suppose Ms. Dujon was getting 10 votes and that kind of thing, you would know that they are continuing to be mashed up. but then so that's not a spin. That's a attempt to try to get in the shoes of the Democratic Labour Party, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Fair enough.
If we can try to get some understanding of what may be going on in their circles.
Fair enough. But I'm interested. I Carver, not to take away your chair, but I'm interested, Dr. Belle, as we see this in terms of the independence as well here, and I mean for us again, we always look at the independence of not necessarily being, making a very big impact in terms of the results. And I think as well that is also consistent here.
Yeah.
But I'm interested, and Dr. Belle, if whether or not the independents would have taken votes, perhaps from either party.
Well, if you may, this may shed any further light, after the first four boxes, 1,317 to Mr. Chad Blackman, 219 to Miss Felicia Dujon, Mr. Alex Mitchell 2 votes, and Miss Williams 12. I don't know if that would be substantial enough from the independent candidates who said that they may have detracted from either of the main political parties. But Dr. Belle, you can weigh in.
Of no particular significance, and that is consistent with the non-performance of third parties, quote unquote, in the dominant two-party system. So it would mean again that the Democratic Labour Party is maintaining itself as the second party, because the independents are not taken away from their performance, but nonetheless you can see that there's a clear difference between the LP and them. So that to my extent is that our two-party system is being maintained, but one of the parties is in serious need of repair, and we know that it's in the process of repairing. And the best case that they can make is to say that we continue to repair ourselves, and we have a hard, long struggle in terms of that, and the Barbados Labour Party continues to dominate the whole scene. The lead of Mr. Blackman now is almost say massive, and in that sense, I know if it was CNN, they would predict.
The magic wall would have already predicted this call is this seat.
Yes.
Oh my. Ms. Gilding-Bourne, in terms of Dr. Belle's perspective, in terms of the rebuilding of the Democratic Labour Party, do you see any bright sparks, and do you what takeaways in terms of the work to be done? Is there something to be said for at least stemming the erosion or the slide?
Well, I agree completely. We are repairing ourselves because, I mean, it was very public, and it was repeated and played on repeat. So, it's stuck in people's brains. So, yeah, we definitely are in a repair mode. Mr. Thorne has definitely done his absolute best in terms of keeping the party, well, I can't say keeping the party together, but trying to mobilize those persons that are interested in the party and not interested in their self. Because, a lot of things have plagued the Democratic Labour Party over the last couple of months. Well, I say months or a year or some, because that is how long I've been involved with the Democratic Labour Party. I came in 2022 when I decided that I wanted to run for Christchurch East. I guess it got to the point where we were tired of sitting down, complaining or not doing anything. I was put in a position where I would have been able to make a contribution to the political landscape. And so I decided to take the plunge. And from 2022 to now, 2025, a lot of things have changed. Things have changed. people have left, and I want to get rid of this rhetoric. People got pushed out. No, they left. Point blank, they left. Everybody had the opportunity to resubmit their letters of interest after the whole changeover. And those that didn't want to, didn't submit. And those that did want to, did submit. So, but yeah, we definitely have work to do. And I think in some regard, in relation to what Dr. Belle said, the results, if you're looking at it with perspective, would be encouraging in that respect. Because as he said, if we were getting 10 and 2, you know, it would really show that we have not survived that trauma. And we've survived the trauma, but we now have to do a good set of repairing. So it's going to be an uphill battle. Nobody said it would be easy. At least the people that spoke to me told me it's not going to be easy. It's going to be an uphill battle, but it's not saying that it can't be done, right? Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Munto-Knight, anything you want to weigh in on that?
Oh, sorry, it was just muted there for a bit. No, I think the results are speaking for themselves. I think that we are agreeing that the Barbados Labour Party is maintaining its confidence of the people of Barbados, confidence people in this particular constituency as well, and that the trend of us being able to dominate the various boxes continues. I won't speak to what it says to the Democratic Labour Party. That is for them to consider and to be able to reflect on. But I go back to the point again of the referendum, right? So if the Barbados Labour Party, and I said it before, is maintaining, and you have a Democratic Labour Party, and Dr. Belle is saying perhaps the best case scenario, so can say that they aren't completely decimated. That's like the cup is quarter full. To me, it says something fundamental as well for them to consider. But I look forward to, again, a big result for Chad in this constituency and all the other boxes. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't see the Democratic Labour Party, perhaps even in the boxes that are might even be considered. I think you alluded to, or somebody alluded to, might be boxes in which the Democratic Labour Party can see themselves making a significant or having a significant impact. I don't think that the results tonight will show that.
Ms. Gilding-Bourne, I mean, for a party that would have been saying, predicting early elections, because I've heard it from the opposition leaders' mouth on more than one occasions, and do you think that the canvassing, the groundwork started early enough in that constituency for this by-election?
Well, there's always room for improvement, right? There's always room for improvement. Let's put it there. I think Ms. Dujon worked really hard in terms of getting out there. I guess whether she could have gotten out earlier, I mean, either of them could have gotten out earlier, Maybe getting out a little early would have been ideal, but I don't know how much earlier when early. She could only get out when she was chosen for the area itself, right? And when that happened and she officially became the candidate for St. James North, yeah, she did get out, like pronto.
Dr. Belle, do you agree with that sentiment that your groundwork begins when you're selected?
No. I don't mean your groundwork begins when you're selected, because I've been doing groundwork in Christchurch East for a long time. I'm a very community activist. I volunteer a lot. I get involved in sports. I give back of my time, whether it be football, whether it be volleyball, whatever the issue is, summer schools, camps, Boy Scouts. Those are just some of the things that I involve myself with. So before I even decided to want to be a representative for the constituency, I was definitely involved. Ms. Dujon, on a national level, she's been involved with the youth, and she's lived in St. James. So it's not like she is a foreigner to St. James. She's actually lived in Western for many years. So she has been involved in the community itself. So I think maybe her activism or her volunteerism on a smaller scale would have started before she became the actual candidate for the area. So I don't want to get that mixed up.
Okay.
So if I can just come in here, I know you went to Dr. Bell.
Sure.
But I want to note that the leader of the opposition had declared that they were ready for whenever elections was called, whatever level, right? So we say that there's room for improvement. Doesn't belie the need for good strategy and being prepared. And again, like I said, the leader of opposition said that they were fully prepared, right? The
Just because there's room for improvement doesn't mean that you're not prepared. I think it was kind of arrogant to think that because you're prepared, you can't improve on your preparedness. Just saying.
I hear you, but let's not tap it off to that there's room for improvement. When you're looking at results like that, and the question of the extent to which you're going to be on the ground in a really big way, it points to strategy. It points to how you go through your selection process. We had very openly candidates for the Barbados Labour Party coming out and saying that they only heard about who will be selected and who will not be selected on national radio themselves, as opposed to the process the Barbados Labour Party would have gone through to make sure that we had a process in which our candidates could be selected in an open and very transparent way as well, to allow people to be able to work, and then also as well bring a comprehensive program within the constituency. So I think it's yes, there's always going to be room for improvement, but the mature conversation has to be about the strategy and the execution of strategy on the ground.
Okay. Dr. Bell, yeah, we was trying to get you to weigh in on the actual, the whole idea of when if the groundwork began soon enough. I don't know how closely you had your ears to the ground as it
Well,
relates to.
a party has to be prepared if it is a viable opposition party. It has to be prepared all the time. Now, the problem with the Democratic Party is that it's going through a crisis of structure, of leadership, and all these kinds of things. So in a sense, it is disprepared because of that kind of political trauma it was going through. But a party has to be in opposition, has to be always be prepared to go forward in an election, because you don't really know when a by-election is going to be called, and you don't even know on the system that we operate in the Westminster system as it is structured in Barbados, when an election is going to be called. The Prime Minister can call it anytime. So that you have to be prepared all the time, and you have to do the work in the party that will allow it to be prepared all the time. That is, so it is very difficult to say that they needed more time. The party itself has to restructure itself to the point where it can handle any developments within the political environment. And it is very difficult to do that when you go through the kind of experiences that the Democratic Labour Party has gone through in the last number of months. It's very difficult to be prepared, so that they are repairing themselves and they are preparing themselves. But I don't think that they could really be said they're prepared. And if this by election had showed otherwise, then we would know that we have something that is showing that they have overcome their difficulties. And we still are waiting on the other boxes to say whether we're going to get evidence that they have done better than so far. They've done what has been manifested so far. Right now, it is the performance is consistent with what one would expect, and that means that the party has not declined, but it has not demonstrated that it has overcome. It has healed. It has not demonstrated that it has healed, but it has not demonstrated that it is any worse off than one would expect at this time. That is as far as I would go on that. But parties that are in good condition have to be prepared always, and just have to address each of the candidates to see that the candidates are doing work that is sufficient to make them reasonable representatives in the particular constituencies.
Okay. Well, we still have another, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes to come. And again, I want to.
4 boxes already.
Yes, 4 boxes have been called already.
Right, and you have 5 more.
Yes, 5 more.
So in fact, you're not. There's 9. So it's 50%.
Yeah. So we have so far SA1, SA2, SA3, and SA4, a total of 1,317 for Chad Blackman, Dujon 219, Mitchell 2, and Williams 12. I just want to give Miss Gilding-Bourne a chance to respond to a question that I had asked earlier in terms, and I think Dr. Munto-Knight already gave her response to it. But in terms of your takeaway as you yourself will be facing the political fires whenever that bell is rung, what are your takeaways seeing how battle is done firsthand in the political sphere?
Well, you have to get out. Definitely, you have to get out. You have to have the energy, according to Ms. Munto-Knight. You have to have the energy. And you're definitely going to need some money. That's for sure, on your political campaign. And you just got to come out and do your best. That's what I could say. You just got to come out and do your best. I believe I've done a good set of canvassing. I've been canvassing for the year since last year. As I said, I've been working within the community itself. So, I have that backdrop to rest on. And then I guess the BLP's failure may be my upliftment in respect of the lack of representation in the area, which seems to be one of the major issues, one of the major things that people repeat and repeat and repeat. They do not see the MP for the area. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. And having been in power for 7 years, his record is paltry at best. So I'm not just saying because the people see that there's a lack of representation that I'm just going to float on that. Definitely have to get out and do the work. I'm a farmer myself. I've started a fruit tree initiative. So far, I've given away 185 trees, and that's fruit trees. So, I get into the schools. I'm also a Boy Scout leader. So I'm definitely into volunteering and social activism. But you definitely have to get out, not only hear the people's concerns, but try and address them. Everybody in Christchurch East complains about the condition of the roads. It is horrible. We have 1,000 roads that need to be built. And while I hear 18 roads have been built since 2018 till now, that's nothing to be proud about. I have a playing field in front of me here that has been dug up and left for 2 years. But yet still we hear certain persons talk about how important the community center is for the community and the engagement of the youth. But then they come and dig up the playing field and they leave it for 2 years. The pavilion gets opened, swept out, and closed. More needs to be done, especially to involve the youth.
I have to interject quite quickly. I will give you a chance to finish your point, but we have more results coming in. That's SB1, A2H, Blackman 162, Dujon 35, Mitchell 1, Williams 1. Again, SB1, A2H, Blackman 162, Dujon 35, Mitchell 1, Williams 1. And the completion of that box, SB1, I to Z, Blackman 113, Dujon 23, Mitchell 1, Williams 1. And again, if I may crave the indulgence of our resident.
who was said she will rely on her calculator as her brain gets tired.
Yeah.
That's 35 plus 23, so that's 58 for Dujon.
58.
And 162 plus 113, right? So that's 276.
Okay.
Trying to my calculator for chat.
Right. So SB1, 2018 for DLP 69, 2022 62. The Barbados Labour Party 348 in 2018, 240 in 2022. We still have more results. SB2 A2H, Blackman 135, Dujon 12, Mitchell 0, Williams 0. The completion of that box, SB2 I to Z, Blackman 157, Dujon 13, Williams 0, and Mitchell also 0.
That's 292 for chat. I'm gonna say this 12. For every day, and one is 903. One of those. Sorry, that's. Let me go again on that. 292 for chat and 25 for
25.
Yeah.
That's a significant underperformance for Miss Dujon in that box. 45 for the numbers were low to begin with, so the bar wasn't very high. But 45 in 2018 for the DLP, 41. And the BLP, 301 in 2018, 215 in 2022. So again, we are seeing relatively low numbers for the Democratic Labour Party. I don't know if Dr. Belle wishes to revise.
Tell me the total for the last total for the Barbados Labour Party.
The Barbados Labour Party for which one? Yeah. SB2.
Yeah.
SB2. The last total, Miss Dr. Munto-Knight is how much?
292. 292 is the total of the 42.
292, right?
And in 2018, what was it?
301 in 2018 and 215.
And now 292.
Yeah.
292.
So it's not there's no great disparity, not too far off.
My interpretation of this would be consistency, but somebody else might be looking at the specific swing, right? But I'm seeing consistency here. But if you do it against the 2018 thing, you're going to be seeing a swing against the Barbados Labour Party. You see? But it's not a swing that is going to allow the Democratic Labour Party to make any tremendous claims. But that is open to interpretation by certain people as well. But right now, my conclusion would be to say that it is consistent performance in this constituency for the Barbados Labour Party, because I am inclined to take out 2022 out of the whole
The equation.
And some people might not want to do that. And then they slightly change it. But if you do it against 2018, you're going to see is a swing against the Barbados Labour Party. But that is not a swing that the Democratic Labour Party can claim anything about. That's the problem. Because they're not overperforming, they're not overperforming. You know, if anything that you said, they're
underperforming in some respects.
Any takeaways for you, Dr. Munto-Knight, in terms of the performance of the because it seems to be still subpar in some areas, is an indication of work to be done to some degree?
I don't know. I don't know where you're seeing subpar. I mean, it's a little bit difficult doing it like this because we are able to see the 2018, 2022, and then see the results together. So it's a little bit difficult in some respects. But what I do see is again the underperformance of the Democratic Labour Party, and the fact. I mean, even if we just look at here, you're talking about 301 in 2018, which we all agreed before was was also a significant year again because of the high level of the swing. Bringing the party in on a 30-love year, but to then have a new candidate that can come in and perform at this particular level at this time after 7 years. So if you put all of those things into consideration, where in fact, again, if I go back to my old hat, Dr. Belle, political science, you would expect to see a further diminishment of the party in power, and you see maintenance. That suggests something.
Consistency. That is why I'm saying. That's why my conclusion is consistency here. So I go along with that.
Okay. In terms of the whole idea.
Sorry, Colville. I'm not so sure. I don't want it to be said that we are deliberately leaving out Ms. Gilding-Bourne, but she is in the chat saying I am here and hello. So I'm not so sure what is going wrong, but
I'm trying to touch base with the producer to 1 second. Okay, seems to be back with us. Yes, hi, Ms. Gilding-Bourne. I don't know if you would have heard the last set of results. I think you're muted. You're muted still. Right, go right ahead.
Sorry about that. My Wi-Fi dropped out. I only heard the last portion of the discussion with Miss Dr. Munto-Knight. She was speaking, but I didn't hear the results. No, I didn't.
Okay. The tallies. If you could assist me, Dr. Munto-Knight.
No problem. So the last box that came out, which should be SB21, Felicia Dujon 25. And Chad 292, and for Felicia, Colville, if you can perhaps do the rest in terms of the comparison between 2018 and 2022. So that doesn't come from me. Yeah.
Okay. So SB1 in 2018 would have been for the Democratic Labour Party would have been 69. In 2022 it would have been 62. For the Barbados Labour Party, 348. And 240 in 2022. And the SB2 tabulation, you gave that already, Dr. Munto-Knight?
Yes, but I'm thinking I'm seeing a total to date here. So this should be coming up. Blackman.
Right. Blackman, 1,884. Miss Dujon, 302. Mitchell, 4. Williams, 14. And we only have 3 boxes to go at this point.
Do you have a total for Williams?
Williams is 14.
Because that by me all together.
That's the total
altogether, 14.
That is not a bad. That's all together. Sorry, yes. Okay.
So again, not too substantial from the independent candidates. The question is how might the results tonight? I mean, as we are seeing, it's if we were at the CNN Magic Wall, the victory would have been the red spot on the map would have been up already, where that is concerned. But in terms of the broader elections, as whenever that is due, whenever the Prime Minister decides, I mean, is there anything in the tea leaves that we can glean towards trends that we are looking forward to
Well, I would say that the Prime Minister would have to be careful not to get drunk and go and call the election immediately, because I believe that the Barbados Labour Party still has work to be done to repair the critique that has been brought against it, and that they haven't completed the answer to that critique, and they should not be complacent about that. As weak as the Democratic Labour Party might be, they say that a week in politics can be of great significance. So that I think that the Barbados Labour Party should still be cautious, but might be some people in the Barbados Labour Party saying, let it go now. That if we could do this in that constituency, we could carry Barbados for 30 love again or something like that, And I believe that they should control such hubris.
Right. So you think that another snap election would be a mistake at this point?
I believe they should use the 2 years, yes, that they should really take the time about this. And even though you'll be saying that you're giving the DLP more time to build itself back, I think that there was a wave of critique out there. Some of it not well founded, but some of it real, particularly cost of living and crime, that the Barbados Labour Party needs to answer better. And then the whole question of the economic recovery, which I think they've done the work there, but they need to explain it even more to the Barbadian population. And then we're going into a bad period with all the American tariffs and all that, So and we're coming out to the IMF program. So that I don't think that they should rush. Some people can, everything I say then there itself could lead somebody to say we should go now. So the very opposite of what I'm saying could be the conclusion that somebody in the Barbados Labour Party could reach to say, let's go now and take advantage of the situation. I would be cautious about.
I'm almost reluctant to put this question to Dr. Munto-Knight, given the fact that let's it be said that she is trying to do the Prime Minister's job for her, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless.
And I'm perhaps not going to answer as the Prime Minister. but on a serious note, right? I mean, if we look at the trends here, and again, as I struggle a little bit because in this thing I want to really put I'm here representing a political party, but at the same time, like I said, it would be good, Colville, perhaps again, let's need to have everything up so that we can really see it there, because just we
didn't mean to have to also learn and evolve as it relates to our programming as well too, so that next time we have to do something of this nature, we would have
and you also do the geography as well, okay?
As well, yes. Mm-hmm. So it's a learning curve for us as well.
So we can see those red dots and the trends in the particular area. Because again, I go back to my point that I made before. The fact again that we have not, and I don't think, and I've just been trying to do the math in my head across the areas, that we haven't seen substantial decline for the Barbados Labour Party, which I also think as well. So overall, when people expect the Barbados Labour Party to win, again, I think that after 7 years, people expected us to win well, but that there would be something in there that would say something about the level of support for the Barbados Labour Party, and the fact that we are still seeing the maintenance of that after 7 years, and in spite of, Colville, the issues that Dr. Belle has raised, in spite of the concerns in relation to the gun crime, in spite of the concerns in relation to the cost of living, that has maintained, suggests to me, one, that our messaging and our response to the issues have resonated. Doesn't mean that we don't have more work to do. Doesn't mean that we have to continue, as Dr. Belle has said, to be more responsive. But as well, it does suggest that Barbadians are listening and understanding, even as we continue to do more work. And as Dr. Belle said, to explain more and to hold ourselves continually accountable to that. But these results tell me, again, is that one, yes, we had the best candidate and people accepted that, but also at a very national level, that the confidence in the Barbados Labour Party remains as strong as it did in 2022 because in some respects we would see if Dr. Belle wants to thought 2022, but if we leave that in there, the Chad has done better in some respects in some of the areas, better than 2022 results, and very small margins in relation to the support in 2018. If we look at it, we're talking about 301 to 292 in a swing year. 240, and the margins are extremely small in some respects between 2018 and what the Barbados Labour Party is doing now, and that is significant for us, and is significant for the future.
Well, just getting news here that the Prime Minister, Mayor Amoy and former Member of Parliament for the constituency have arrived at Gordon Greenwich Primary School. I think that's where the Chief Electoral Officer is, and the presiding officer is, and that seems to be an indication of that victory they have declared victory in that constituency. I just want to get that in before I go to Miss Gilding-Bourne, as it relates to the earlier question posed and comments raised by Dr. Belle as it relates to the tea leaves that we can glean for a wider national election.
I agree with his sentiments. I do. In respect of the 2022 comparison, I don't think that's near or there, because not many people came out to vote in that year. The results, well, I wouldn't say that the best candidate won. The candidate that the people feel that they can go forward with is what they selected. Whether or not that may have any indication on what might happen in the next general election, I don't think we could really say that with confidence that, it would be another 30 Love. Each individual constituency has their own work to do relative to the constituency itself. And I guess this would be a good indication as what we have to do, or what more we have to do in relation to repairing the Democratic Labour Party and repairing its image, or its public image, which, took a bashing over the last year or so.
If I may just make one observation, the numbers that we are seeing thus far seems to still be quite consistent with 2022. Is there anything to be said about? And that was a COVID year. Is there anything to be said? It's not far off. But it's not. It's definitely not comparable to 20. We still have to wait and see what happens in the remaining 3 boxes. But to hit that, let's say, on near 4,000 mark, there has to be some remarkable numbers in SC1, SD1, and SE1. Is that telling us anything about voter apathy and turnout as it relates to by-elections and at this point? Dr. Belle, sorry.
Yeah, not the full basis of your question. I am not comfortable with 22. Okay, so where you are developing your point from 22, I really am not comfortable with 22. I don't think that. Again, we have to wait for the total result, the total turnout, to see what if that issue of apathy can be brought up again. But there has been a kind of pattern over the years, but it shifts. If you have something that is of tremendous interest to the Barbadian electorate, they come out, and then it is like sometimes in between they get bored, and then they might be just before they start to shift to another party, they will actually go down, and then they come back up again very dramatically. So I'm not too sure. These arguments about what apathy have been going on for years, and I'm not really persuaded that you have any real demonstration that there's any voter apathy to that extent. I think that it depends on the political environment at the particular moment of the election, when the election is called, and what is the atmosphere around the regime at the time. And people will respond as a result. So that 2018, you get this big dramatic come out of determination because people wanted to get rid of the government. So then, are you going to say then that that was a reversal of from what apathy? No, it's to do with the environment, the political environment. So I think the political environment is a critical thing to assess there, rather than that there's any trend of apathy. I don't think that there's any trend of apathy that would be persuasive to me. I do not believe that that is so, but some people do follow that narrative and do accept that thesis.
But I only pose the question because okay, if you do the totals for 2013 was well over 4,000, closer to 5,000 persons turning out. 2018, which we all agree was a major swing and a watershed turnout, was well over 4,000. Actually, it's about 4,000, almost 4,300. And 2022 was just over 3,000. No, actually 3,000 and around 3,001, around there, just around that margin. Based on what the numbers the tallies that we have thus far, we seem to be heading for a turnout. And again, I mean, we still have to wait on SC1, SD1, and SC1, and to see what the turnout is in those boxes. But based on the numbers that we are seeing, we seem to be on course for a turnout similar to 2022, which we all have acknowledged was a COVID year. I mean, and that's why I pose the question: if there is something.
So you're saying something that suggested that there's a low turnout.
That based on my crude mathematics thus far, that's what I am seeing, that the turnout seems to be on the lower end and seems to be consistent with 2022 numbers. Or is it?
And this will be consistent with critique in the environment, with a critique in the environment against the regime, and it is up to the regime now to reverse that if it is going to actually survive another term in office, and also relative to the opposition party. But I'm more going with the issue of what is the political environment rather than the notion of apathy, because this will become that what is going on now. Then if there turnout, it is because there's a lot of critique against the government, and it would be that the opposition has been able to carry that message, even though the opposition has not been successful in rebuilding itself, and it would therefore be a warning, in a sense, to the government to say you have work to do in terms of reversing that, because that is the kind of environment that you will get as a regime is going into decline. So that I more see it in that way than and people stay home. Then they see they say, well, I can't support that because I don't support neither one of them, so I stay home. If that happens, that is a reflection of political environment rather than, I think, a condition of voter apathy. I think when the people are ready, they come out.
Any response from?
It's just a different.
Any response from Dr. Munto-Knight and Ms. Gilding-Bourne? As it relates
not ready for me, because I think I've spoken on the point. I think I've spoken on the point already on my viewpoint. And certainly I'm interested to see the rest of the results from the station. And I think when we do a thorough analysis, we're able to do a thorough analysis and then step back. I agree with the overall point Dr. Belle is making, that perhaps it is more about environments. So people will galvanize around particular moments in Barbados. Some people are ready to vote you out. They come out and they vote you out. There's always a strong statement in Barbados in that. And I think, again, if you look at the trends, Dr. Belle, the reason why we've always had this issue of voter apathy. And even if you go back, but I'm sure if you go back to other previous elections, you would see certain trends where the conversations as well has always been about voter apathy. As different moments, you would see a decline. And I don't know that I agree with Dr. Belle that perhaps part of the narrative, I think Dr. Belle was just introducing the narrative, could be that in this instance that people stayed home, and then it could be suggested then that it says necessarily something about the government. I mean, part of it too as well, and I just spoke about before, is that we have had to, really make sure that we strategize against the feeling that we already had it, and therefore there was no need for perhaps some people to come on, and then we'd have to look at what we need to do there. Certainly, I remember in my nomination in Christchurch itself, I faced that quite a bit. Everybody said, okay, it's a foregone conclusion, and therefore the support did not match, even though I won, and I won quite handsomely. I didn't match. I wasn't as large as I would have expected, again, because people, not in a negative way, but, you're going to win anyhow, so it didn't make sense. So I think that there are a number of different dynamics that we have to be able to look at. But again, my major point here that I've been reiterating is that we're seeing continued support for the Barbados Labour Party that is consistent. I don't believe that when we look at it overall that we would see a decline overall in terms of support, but for a 7-year government, I think that is a very, very, very strong vote of confidence in the government.
And as a further indication, before I go to Ms. Gilding-Bourne, as a further indication of the celebratory mood of the Barbados Labour Party, candidate Chad Blackman and other members of the party have already gathered at the counting station. So again, this is, I guess, in anticipation of the victory. It is a foregone conclusion because the maths would suggest that he has already won. Ms. Gilding-Bourne, your take on the same point I raised as it relates to, do you see any apathy, or do you see it as just an indication of the environment?
I more think is an indication of the environment. As I said, on the canvassing trail, a lot of persons have expressed that their displeasure with the government. They've been very critical of what has been happening and what has not been happening. And some people just don't care. They're not coming out. Whether BLP or DLP, they don't see the worth in voting because nothing changes. So I don't know, maybe that may have a portion to do with it. Yes, based on historical data, I guess this may have been a foregone conclusion. However, we still had to make sure that we put in our due diligence. We still had to make sure that we put up a good fight. Yes, based on what we have seen tonight, well, we definitely have some tinkering to do. We still have some mending to do, according to Dr. Belle. And, we'll just keep on steadfast and keep on doing what we're doing. I mean, this is not the end all and all. This is the by-election. We still have a general election to go. So, if the Prime Minister doesn't decide to call another snap election, we would have a certain amount of time to do a little extra. I guess each constituency may be in a different place in terms of preparedness, being completely honest, in terms of preparedness, that may go towards the candidate himself, or just generally how they're strategizing for the election. But it's still going to be interesting. If I know my colleagues, and if they're anything like me, we're not going to give up. We're going to take this as perspective, look at it with a silver lining, and go from there. I mean, there's work to be done. Clearly, there's work to be done. And we're here to do the work for people, so we'll just keep at it.
Well, before I ask my next question, I want to thank all of you for the stamina you have shown thus far. Initially, we had planned
For an hour and something, or
an
an
hour
hour.
and a half, and we are going well into 3 hours. So I want to thank you all so much for staying the course with me as we await, as we try to await the remaining 3 boxes. But I must say the conversation has been quite engaging thus far. However, it brings me to a point. I mean, as the country keeps a weather eye on certain seats, certain members of parliament who have already indicated that this is their last, that they have no intention of contesting another general election. There are some who believe that there might be more by-elections, especially if the prime minister decides to go the full term. Uh, One would think that the campaign strategy of within a by-election of asking the constituency to vote within the context of an opposition for the sake of democracy would somewhat resonate. But thus far, in the St. George North by-election and in this current by-election, that seems not to have resonated with the electorate. Ms. Gilding-Bourne, I will start with you. Um, do you think that there needs to be, if there is another by-election, there needs to be a shift to some degree from that approach as it relates to, asking for the vote along, the democratic lines for the sake of having a stronger opposition?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that is the truth. That's facts. Right now there's Ralph Cohen, and he likes to say the seat next to him is empty, and we could put Miss Felicia Dujon in it. However, I mean, that would be ideal, right? So, what can you say? I mean, there's work to be done, and I just keep repeating it. There's work to be done, and it's necessary that we get on board, despite the results of tonight. That's not going to put a damper on things. We're definitely going to have to re-energize and re-strategize. And in terms of strategy, well, definitely, yes. You can't expect to do the same thing twice and get different results. So, if anybody's listening, we definitely have to do some working, re-strategy, re-message.
Okay. Dr. Bell?
Well, if the Barbados Labour Party continues to hold by elections in strong constituencies, the voting for the opposition thing is not going to work. See, if it was this fifth or something like that, then you could that narrative has more potential in terms of a result that would bring a DLP member into parliament. But if you are in a strong Barbados Labour Party constituency, you would have to be carrying the campaign of a national election that you're changing the government, not voting for opposition. You're not going to vote for an opposition in a strong BLP seat. I think not. That it wouldn't. So this by election here is demonstrating that it's difficult to carry that thesis within a strong Barbados Labour Party constituency. I can see it working if you're in a place like Philip with one of the marginal seats up there, and you say there's a chance for us to get another member in parliament, and people actually seeing that is possible, and the advantages, the margins being closer, so that if you could persuade somebody 100 people to that view, you could get the advantage, and therefore you get home and achieve what you're saying that you want the opposition strengthened in parliament. Other than that, I think they have to wait for the big swing in a national election to see whether they can change the government, and that requires the work that this is Gilding-Bourne is talking about in terms of rebuilding the party.
Dr. Munto-Knight?
No, I of course agree with Dr. Belle, but I just want to say here, I hope, Colville, we weren't, proposing that thing of, you put an opposition in, put in an opposition safe, right? So leadership matters, but the type of leadership matters more. Barbados is facing some very crucial times, whether the issues are national, whether the issues are global, in terms of our forward trajectory. So yes, it's important in a democracy to make sure that you have a strong opposition, but you want an opposition that has some metal. You want an opposition that leadership, an opposition players and members who are going to be able to make a substantive contribution to how we do national development. And this is not the time to for us to play career. Well, that we put somebody in there just to make sure that we can show that we have an opposition in the seat. It has to be fully earned, and it is one that the people are going to then make that ultimate decision about whether or not they believe. And I hear Dr. Belle in relation to the notion of whether it's a marginal seat or whether it is a strong hold as well. And like I said, from a political analysis perspective, I can appreciate that, but also as well knowing that again, when Barbados ready to vote you out or swing against you, they do. Right, so we've seen strong DLP strongholds that have shifted, and vice versa as well, just based on the sentiment of Barbadians when they want to send a very, very strong message to either political party in relation to the trajectory. Which has been again one of those areas. So I think that on a whole, we have to make sure that one, for the sake of the democracy, that we keep at the forefront that the type of leadership matters. The type of leadership matters. The type of leadership in the Democratic Labour Party, the type of leadership in the Barbados Labour Party. And that is the important thing when we think about this notion of whether or not we're going to have an opposition in there. The type of opposition matters.
Well, just on a point of order, I wasn't saying or suggesting that was my talking point. I'm just saying that seems to be the campaign strategy for 2 by-elections, and I was just trying to get the assessment as to whether it was resonating or not, and it seems not resonating with the voting public. We have 3 outstanding boxes, but if we would be wrapping up within the next 8 minutes, and if the results come in within that time frame, the final boxes are being announced actually. So we will have those boxes within the 8-minute time frame that I am setting. So I can interject one final question before I ask the panelists to give their final synopsis on how this entire by-election unfolded. Do you think, because we went back to the whole idea of the referendum on either the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party or the performance of the government, but do you believe that national issues, the economy, crime, etc., do they have a role to play in by-elections? And we can anyone can feel free to raise their hand and input on this.
I think we can avoid it, right? So the national will become local, and vice versa, depending on the scale. So the issues of crime and violence, gun crime, some people want to specify it, are going to be issues at the national level, but also as well, they're going to have impact at the local level. When I say local level, at the constituency level, at the parish level. So some of those issues and how they are treated within political debate, within the by-election, are sometimes going to have to coalesce, right? And I don't think that there's any difficulty with that. Government, as we have done, like I said, we're not shying away from being able to speak to those issues within the by-election, those large and hard issues that the country at the national level is asking, but also as well within the specific constituency that the public as well as the persons within those constituencies want to answer. Very Barbadians sometimes don't always see the distinction. We believe that the issues that affect at the national level aren't part of the narrative or part of the concerns of the people in particular constituencies, and that's not true. People understand that connection, are interested in national development, and they want to have those issues treated to the extent to which we overpower the local issues of the constituency is something that we need to do to be able to have balance. I think though that for us on our platform, we were able to bring that balance of treating to the national issues, which were brought up by the Democratic Labour Party, but also as well speaking directly to the constituents in St. James North.
Okay. Ms. Gilding-Bourne?
I agree. I agree. I agree with what she said.
Okay. And that's your full stop there on that point? Okay.
So she agreed.
All right. Dr. Belle?
Yeah, that is more or less a orthodox position, but I would think that it was a way that the parties sought to set a tone as well for this particular campaign, and both of them bought into that. But the people in St. James North would have wanted discussion on the parochial issues, but they can understand why the thing was pitched at the level of a national debate. So I don't think there's anything particularly outstanding as a challenge to what came out in the campaign. The national debate, the two parties wanted to go there, or at least the Democratic Labour Party wanted to go there. The Barbados Labour Party felt that they had to respond to what the Democratic Labour Party was doing. And the constituency, the people in the electorate in the constituency understood that is what was happening. And once you showed that the candidates were going to still be interested in parochial matters, they lived with that.
Okay. Well, we are still waiting. We have about 3 more minutes. We are still awaiting the final 3 boxes. I think they're coming in all at once. My producer is gonna put them in as they come in. But I think now is a good point where we can start to give our summations and our synopsis. Okay, we have Chad Blackman winner. That's the total votes now coming in. 2,723 votes to Chad Blackman. 468 votes to Miss Felicia Dujon. 7 to Mr. Mitchell. 21 to Williams, and 12 spoiled. Total 3,231 ballots spoiled. I mean cast. Sorry, I think the hour is taking a toll on me at this point. 3,221 ballots cast. Again, if my calculation is correct, just maybe 100 or so votes over the 2022 elections. But again, please give us, based on that new, in the context of that new input, and we now see the results. We can now have our wrap up. Starting with Dr. Belle.
Interestingly, last night in the supermarket, a person who I suspected was one of the defectors from the Democratic Labour Party told me that Ms. Dujon can get 500 votes. And that is exactly what has happened here, that she has not got 500 votes. And therefore, she has not made the mark. I think that to get under 500 is a problem, and in terms of her as a candidate. But the party, I think, has not collapsed in the process, and it obviously has a lot of work to do. Um, but it is a sound beating, and the Barbados Labour Party has performed in a consistent way in relation to this constituency. It looks like if we have had a drop in the turnout again, but I'm thinking that that's environmental rather than that is any apathy in the vote. It might be a bit of complacency as well. And it's obviously that the Democratic Labour Party has not been able to pull out people to say we need to give the government a message. So they have not been able to achieve that either. They have just shown that they have not traumatized to the point of collapse, that Ralph Thorne has been able to hold them together, and they're in a rebuilding posture. That is how you have to read that. But they have not performed to standard either in relation to what you would expect an opposition party to do at this time. With the kind of critique that they've been carrying against the government, they have not performed to reflect that in any sound way. So the government has won this one at both levels, at the level of defending itself, at the level of demonstrating that they are the party of choice between themselves and the Democratic Labour Party.
Okay. Ms. Gilding-Bourne?
Well, I would like to say congratulations to Mr. Chad. As the results may have shown, the electorate has decided to stay with the Barbados Labour Party. I guess you can say that it was a foregone conclusion because it was a BLP stronghold. The results, though, with respect to Ms. Dujon, I don't know, perspective is everything. Based on what Dr. George Belle is saying, that the amount of votes that she's garnered is below what would have been expected. And maybe so. And it shows that, yes, we do have work to do. And yes, we do still have some rebuilding, and we do still have some work to do with respect to regaining the public's trust. I think the public's trust has been injured greatly with respect to the Democratic Labour Party for a myriad of reasons, which I don't have to get into. But some of that is before he was even here. And yeah, it just shows that it definitely is an uphill battle. And maybe our strategies will have to be changed in respect of going forward. But I don't feel discouraged in any way with respect to the outcome of tonight. This is just a by-election for St. James North, and we still have other constituencies to go. So if the candidates are going to be as serious as I am with respect to going forward and doing the work for the people, I think we will see a new set of energy coming from out of the Democratic Labour Party, because it shows tonight, if you want to take it with a grain of salt, it shows that we definitely have a lot of things that we need to put in place and change. So, yes.
Yeah. Dr. Munto-Knight, final words.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not with my colleagues. I'm online with you. So let me say words of congratulations to Chad as the new representative for St. James North. I also want to say congrats to the entire Barbados Labour Party team. This was a team effort. The entire Barbados Labour Party machinery lined up, as we usually would do, behind Chad. And also, of course, thanks to the people of St. James North for continuing to repose the confidence in the Barbados Labour Party and in the candidate that we put forward. Again, I say that it is a statement of the continued confidence of people of Barbados in the leadership of the Barbados Labour Party. But it is also as well our commitment to the people of St. James North, as it is to the country as well, that we will continue to work to maintain that confidence, not just in because we are, have strongholds in particular constituencies, because we are a party that is committed to delivering for the people of Barbados, for the constituency of St. James North. I know that Chad already has programs and has already outlined a vision for doing even more in this constituency. And as a government as well, we will continue to, as we've always do, face it and fix it. Thank you.
All right. And again, just for those who maybe now hearing, Mr. Blackman has been declared the winner. He has amassed a total of 2,723 votes. The closest challenger, Democratic Labour Party candidate, Ms. Felicia Dujon, 468. Mr. Independent candidate, Alex Mitchell, 7. And Williams, 21. Again, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to my panelists tonight. Again, keeping vigil with me this long. I know that we had initially planned for an hour and a half, and we have doubled that. So I really thank you. And again, many may not know this invitation came quite last minute for some as well too. So again, thank you everyone who joined us, and I hope that the discussion would have been as engaging for you as it was for us. And at this point, this is where we will say good night. Again, congratulations to Mr. Chad Blackman, and I wish everyone, as we now enter into Thursday morning, to have a productive day. So again, good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.